Yeah, absolutely. So the EU-India InnoCenter helps European startups to enter the Indian market. And that may sound very straightforward, but oftentimes it is a very specific journey for each of the startups. So we are helping them through this journey, figuring out if the problem, for example, that they're solving in Europe is exactly the same or slightly different. We help them understand the stakeholders that are involved in their ecosystem and then craft a value proposition that can actually resonate with Indian customers. And as we go through this journey, we find out as we validate with potential customers and partners if there is a potential for the solution here in the Indian market and if they should go forward with their market entry. Once they're there at their market entry stage, we also help them hire, set up a business here, figure out where, possibly figure out who to partner with, which JV partners to collaborate with, and so on. So you see, it's the full spectrum. While we are still a bit sector agnostic, we have zoomed in on certain areas where we think there's especially high potential when we bring solutions from Europe to India. Because one of our core mantras is to bring something that adds value here and not something that is just a Me Too solution that the Indian ecosystem can very well solve themselves. This is a vastly vibrant ecosystem, and we do know that, we appreciate that, and there's a lot of synergies that the two sides can bring together. But to come back to the sectors, we are mostly working on sustainability solutions, so that's energy and clean tech, for example. We work on mobility and logistics. So I know UP, for example, has a huge interest in building more warehouses, automating these warehouses, so that could be an interesting area of collaboration. We are working on healthcare and life sciences, and we are always on the lookout for solutions that are affordable so that you can reach all parts of society. And I think that could be another area where UP may have an interest to look at some of these solutions to adopt. And then overall, we always look for interesting solutions around emerging tech, and that could be anything from artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, space tech, and many more things that may emerge in the future. I think the first thing to understand is that even our work is startup work. Yeah. So we have a lot of challenges on both sides. Yeah, even in the European ecosystem, while we do see more and more startups actually targeting India very deliberately, vastly, I would say there's still a lot of awareness work that we need to do. And we're doing that, yeah? That's part of our mandate from the European Commission within this project to raise awareness on the European side. So some of our partners within the consortium, they do nothing but work on the European ecosystem to tell them of what kind of opportunities are out there in India for them. And very niche communication. We are very accurate about it. We are not just telling people this is a big country, many people, and a vast economy, but we are really nailing it down to their specific solution and why we think this makes a difference in India. Yeah, so this is part of the work we do. On the other side, we are getting fantastic receptions across the sectors that I've mentioned earlier. So the resonance is really good. Regardless, there is plenty of challenges, as I mentioned earlier, that the startups themselves have to solve. For example, we are seeing questions around the business model. Like Europe oftentimes still consumes the products in a capex way, so the customers pay upfront, whereas most Indian customers, they don't like it that much, right? They rather want to really consume it. They don't want to own it. So we need to go to more of an OPEX or subscription model or pay as you go. So we even see models like energy storage on demand rather than really buying that energy storage. Yeah? And translating all of that takes time. So the initiative has now been around for 2 years. We are now seeing the first pilots coming into place. So I'm really happy about that. And I hope with us being back to the country after the pandemic that we are hitting the next milestone and see more acceleration in the adoption of these solutions in the country. Within our exploration and validation work, we have seen approximately 40 startups. 8 of them have made serious attempts to enter the market by now or are in the process of doing so. But on the European side, we have screened about 400 startups. So, and some of them we said, no, may not be the right moment. Why don't you do X, Y, Z before you actually enter the market or come back to us? Because we need to make sure that they have a certain stability. India is a very daring market, as compared to maybe going from France to Austria or something of that sort, right? Which is probably a bit more alike. So we want to make sure that we don't risk these businesses to fail, but that's the right moment for them to look at the market and then also to figure out what is the way forward and support them in every step of the way. So we're trying to be very niche on the sectors. Like, for example, we currently work with an emerging tech cohort. So it was kind of obvious to take them to Bangalore and to the Bangalore ecosystem. If we are working with healthcare startups, we are probably looking at Hyderabad. And you could see similar dynamics with other sectors. So I think when we're looking at mobility, there's a lot more options across the country. Some states have very progressive policies around supporting mobility ecosystems. But we also like to work not just with the state agencies, but also with organizations, for example, like Micelio, who build like very organic founder-to-founder ecosystems that we are tapping into, so that our founders can learn from Indian founders in how business here works. How do I sell to corporates in that ecosystem that I belong to, and so on. So that is really like sharing from experienced founders to our founders. So I think the business model is really where the crux lies. I think we have very strong technology in Europe, but India asks for a lot more creativity on the business model side. And I think that's also where our strength lies as an organization, that we are seeing so many startups kind of testing different business models and also engaging with the market frequently, that we can actually highlight certain directions and say, try this, speak to your customers about this solution, how would that resonate? So it's kind of built into the validation process, but we always wait for the feedback from the Indian customers actually.